In New York, the Sandford family opts for a vacation, securing a house on Long Island nestled beside a forest. While the house is splendid, the alcohol cabinet remains locked. As the family settles in, Mother Amanda heads to town for groceries, observing Danny loading his truck with abundant supplies. Later, at the beach, daughter Rose spots a massive oil tanker on the horizon. Initially unconcerned, they soon realize the ship is heading towards the beach, causing panic and a rush to safety. Fortunately, the ship collides with the sand without harm, leading to the closure of the beach for the day. Returning home, they discover the Wi-Fi and phone services are down. Amanda and her husband Clay are surprised to find deer in the backyard, interpreting it as a positive sign. In the evening, Amanda hears a noise and is startled when someone knocks on their door. Preparing to confront a potential intruder, Clay is astonished when the visitors, businessman George and his daughter Ruth, know their names. George and Ruth are the actual house owners, having corresponded with Amanda via email for the rental arrangement. Apologizing for the unannounced visit due to a power blackout after a town symphony event, George and Ruth request to stay for the night, as they cannot access their 14th floor apartment. George offers a 50% refund and suggests they sleep in the basement's guest room. Amanda, skeptical and distrusting, hesitates. George attempts to verify his identity by revealing the keys to the cabinet, extracting an envelope with $1,000 as compensation. Despite this, Amanda remains wary, entertaining the notion that George could be the housekeeper with access to the keys. In an attempt to sway Amanda, Clay pleads for her to extend a chance to George and Ruth. George, sharing alcohol from the cabinet, unravels the intriguing history of the house, attributing Danny as his contracted worker. He reveals his wife's absence, engaged in job-related travel. Amanda's skepticism intensifies as she demands identification. George's claim of forgetting his wallet at the theater during the commotion deepens Amanda's suspicions. The contradiction between George's assertion of learning about the blackout later and the alarm ringing on Ruth's TV, declaring a national emergency, heightens the tension. Left with no alternative, Amanda hesitantly grants George and Ruth permission to stay. In the basement, George cryptically alludes to prior knowledge, acquired through a client's warning. The following morning exposes Amanda to alarming messages on her phone, encompassing the blackout, potential hacker involvement, and enigmatic symbols. Disturbed, she shares the revelations with Clay, but the messages vanish before he can see them. Clay embarks on a quest for more information by driving to town to acquire a newspaper. Struggling without GPS, he gets lost and misses a brief activation of the car radio, revealing a cyber attack causing environmental disaster and disrupting animal migration. George, unable to contact his wife, decides to visit neighbors, keeping his gun within reach. The neighbor's vacant house, scattered with items in the garden, leaves George perplexed. An attempt to use their satellite phone underscores the severity of the situation. American satellites are offline. Following a trail near the beach, he stumbles upon a crashed plane and the lifeless body of a pilot. As another plane approaches, he hides in a nearby house just before it crashes. Meanwhile, back at home, Rose, frustrated by malfunctioning devices, discovers an abundance of deer in the backyard. Curious, she and her brother Archie explore a shed in the forest, where Archie playfully suggests someone may be watching Rose while she sleeps. Startled, Rose accidentally hits her head, and on their way back, Archie is bitten, and Rose observes birds frantically flying away. Upon George's return, he unveils his suspicions, connecting peculiar market behavior and the mysterious beach incident. Explosions and screeching noises interrupt their conversation, prompting Amanda, in agony, to rush into the woods in search of her children. The unbearable noise subsides, and everyone returns home. Amanda recollects Danny's conspicuous purchases and suspects he might have been privy to impending events. Upon Clay's return, he reveals a leaflet in Persian reading, "Death to America." Terrified, Amanda and Clay decide to disregard George's warnings and head to a relative's house in New Jersey. On the road, they encounter a blockade of self-driving cars. Investigating, Amanda discovers an eerie absence of people, realizing that all the cars are identical and brand new. More automated cars approach, compelling Amanda to move her vehicle just in time to avert a potential collision. Evading more oncoming cars, the Sandford family witnesses the chaos extending into the city. Forced to return to the house, George permits them to stay. As rain falls, Archie, feeling unwell, retires to his room after a mischievous moment. Ruth invites Clay to join her for a smoke, expressing remorse for leaving the woman on the road. They discover flamingos in the pool and witness a surreal scene. Indoors, Amanda and George share a drink, and George discloses a startling revelation. Prompted by a powerful client associated with the Pentagon, George sensed an impending global upheaval and moved his money accordingly. Frustrated by the bleak discussion, they dance and share a moment, acknowledging their marital commitments. The sudden return of the screeching sound disrupts the evening, extinguishing lights and frightening away the flamingos. With candles providing the only light, the families decide to share beds for comfort. The following morning, Rose is missing, possibly having taken a bike. Archie wakes with a fever, vomiting blood, and discovers his teeth falling out. Blaming the bug bite, George volunteers to take Clay and Archie to seek help from Danny, while Amanda and Ruth venture into the woods to find Rose. Despite their search, tensions rise, leading to an argument at a shed. The strange noise signals movement outside, and Amanda discovers bike tracks. However, another noise reveals Ruth surrounded by deer. Amanda intervenes, yelling at the deer, and they disperse, bringing comfort to Amanda and Ruth. Meanwhile, the men reach Danny's place, only to be met with shock as Danny appears armed. Supposedly have a bunker. George, adamant about obtaining the medicine, draws his gun, sparking a tense standoff. Clay intervenes, acknowledging his perceived uselessness but passionately pleading for the medicine, emphasizing their shared desire to protect their families. Danny reluctantly agrees, exchanging the medicine for money. With the medicine secured, Danny shares more information, attributing the crisis to the Koreans. Clay counters by presenting the leaflet, suggesting Iranian involvement, but Danny reveals that a friend in San Diego witnessed a similar incident with leaflets in an East Asian language. Danny speculates that multiple enemies are collaborating to destabilize the U.S. The group, armed with this insight, returns to the car. George discloses that Danny's information aligns with a rumor he heard, outlining a three-stage strategy to destabilize a country. Stage 1 involves isolating citizens by disrupting communication and transportation. The ensuing fear leads to Stage 2, synchronized chaos, where people turn on each other in a survival frenzy, distrustful of information outlets manipulated by hackers and leaflets. Stage 3 unfolds naturally as citizens plan coups or civil wars, ultimately collapsing the country. Determined to protect their families, Clay and George decide to head to the neighbor's bunker together. Meanwhile, in the woods, Amanda and Ruth search for Rose. The Manhattan skyline on fire, explosions, and gunfire in the distance catch their attention. Unbeknownst to them, Rose has been in the neighbor's house, breaking in and enjoying an abundance of food. Hearing her mother's calls, Rose considers leaving but discovers a light emanating from the basement. There, she finds an emergency bunker stocked with essentials, including a gym and a greenhouse. The emergency alert system warns of attacks on major U.S. cities with rising radiation levels. Rose stumbles upon a vast DVD collection, including Friends, allowing her to finally watch the last episode of her favorite show.